Bank robbers aren't always masked guys with shotguns. Sometimes they're engineers, ex-military, or even a photographer who decided that art is stealing beautifully. People have broken into banks through tunnels, loaded millions into trucks, bypassed cameras, used insiders, and pulled off genius escape plans. We're breaking down 5 of the greatest heists where boldness was a strategy and stupidity was the finale, where everything was perfect until someone decided to act smart. Crime so daring that the police weren't sure who to call afterward. Investigators or screenwriters? Albert Spagliari, a former paratrooper, adventure lover, and a man with a big imagination. He wasn't a professional, he wasn't a gangster, but one day he decided he could rob the Societe Generale Bank without firing a single shot. This is where creativity begins. Not in the movies, but in the sewers. The plan was simple and insane. Reach the vault through an underground tunnel. Under his command, a team spent weeks digging beneath the city, starting right from the sewers. They worked at night, crawling through mud, avoiding attention, while above-ground people sipped wine and celebrated. Typical France. Romance upstairs, robbery downstairs. Balance maintained. When the tunnel finally led them under the vault, they carefully broke through a 1.5-meter concrete slab. No explosions, no alarms, no witnesses. Inside, silence and 317 safe deposit boxes full of jewelry, cash, and valuables. A total of about 46 million francs, or $30 million at today's rate. For reference, it's like taking all your debts and savings and multiplying by 10,000. Before leaving, the robbers left a message on the vault wall that became legendary. Sans armes, ni haine, ni violence. No weapons, no hatred, no violence. And apparently no conscience either, but at least with style. The police discovered the crime a couple of days later. The nation gasped. The press called it the gentleman's robbery. The public adored them. No casualties, pure audacity, and a touch of philosophy. But it didn't end so beautifully. A few months later, Spagliari was arrested. Sitting in court, listening to the charges, he at one point asked the judge to show him on a map exactly where he forgot part of the loot. When he was allowed to stand and approach, he jumped out the window, hopped on a motorcycle, and rode away. Straight from the courtroom. No joke. This isn't an escape, it's a performance. After that, no one ever caught him again. He lived under false names, published books on the honor of criminals, died on the run. Most of the stolen treasure was never recovered, and his message on the wall remains forever a symbol of the perfect heist without violence. Well, if you don't count the violence against police logic. Story number 2. If you want to steal $17 million on pin, don't team up with people who can't keep their mouths shut. This is a story that started like a Hollywood plan and ended like a comedy. So ridiculous that they actually made a movie about it later. USA, North Carolina. Loomis Fargo Vault. Where money doesn't just lie around, but it rustles in the millions. Kelly Campbell, former company employee. Smart, cunning, and a bit resentful toward life. She knew all the codes, all the schedules, and one guy who could easily be talked into an adventure. That was David Gant, vault supervisor, the man with access to every door and too kind a heart. Yes, that's what happens when kindness meets cash. Kelly came up with a plan. Use an insider, load the money into an armored van, and just drive away. It all looked perfect on paper. On October 4th, 1997, David waited until employees left, tied up the remaining 2, and got to work. He loaded $17.3 million in cash, mostly small bills. Small bills, meaning physically, an entire mini warehouse of cash. By the time the van was full, there was no more space. Not a joke. There was so much money he couldn't fit the remaining $3.3 million. He just left it there and drove off to Mexico with $50,000. Steal $17 million and take $50,000 with you, like ordering a limo but riding a bicycle. The plan was simple. Kelly and her accomplice Stephen Chambers would hide the bulk and send Gaunt his share in parts. But the more money people have, the less brain they have. That's practically a scientific law. Stephen and his wife Michelle started throwing cash around like in a rap video. Bought a mansion, sports cars, jewelry. All for cash. The FBI didn't even have to look for clues. They just needed to see who suddenly became a rich idiot. Meanwhile, Gaunt was in Mexico, waiting for his share and romantically missing Kelly, whom he was in love with, by the way. Stephen Chambers, deciding David might rat them out, tried to hire a hitman to take him out in Mexico. The FBI, of course, intercepted it all. In the end, everyone was arrested. Didn't even need a SWAT team. Just patience and binoculars. March 1998. Gaunt gets 6.5 years, Chambers like 11 years, Kelly less, but still time. A total of 24 people arrested and 15 million out of 17.3 million recovered, meaning they recovered more money than brains. And yes, this story later became the basis for the comedy Masterminds, 2016, where Zach Galifianakis played Gaunt himself. So if you get locked up, at least let Jared Hess make a movie about you. They came to steal a couple of million, found gold, 3 tons. Sometimes luck just says, well, buddy, ready for a curse for life? November 26, 1983. Brinksmat Warehouse, London, near Heathrow Airport. Ordinary morning until 6 armed men burst in. The plan? Cash worth £3 million. In reality, gold worth $26 million. Yes, they couldn't believe their eyes when they opened the vault. Imagine going in for a shawarma and coming out with the whole restaurant. The inside man was a security guard. One of the guys. He let them in, tied up colleagues, and the robbers simply took everything. Gold, diamonds, traveler's checks. 3 tons of gold. That's not a bag of money. That's 3 tons of pure trouble. Because stealing gold is one thing, selling it is a whole different story. While police searched for traces, the criminals were already melting bars, mixing with other batches and selling through shell companies. Money started circulating, multiplying, and disappearing. Thus was born an entire underground empire. Laundering, murders, lies, betrayals. When gold flows through the streets, everyone suddenly becomes an alchemist. In a couple of years, this heist of the century turned into a massive criminal saga. Those involved disappeared one by one. Killed, cheated, missing. The gold spawned dozens of murders and one of the most sinister nicknames in history, the Curse of Brinksmat. Moral? If life throws you 3 tons of gold, run. And not with it, but from it. In the end, only a few executors were arrested, including that guard. But most of the gold was never found. They say some went into legitimate businesses and still cleanses karma in British real estate. Yes, maybe your London flat stands on Brinksmat gold too. Just don't tell the neighbors. That's what the top 3 boldest, craziest, and brilliantly stupid heists in history look like. Some went in with guns, some with a shovel, some with inside info, and all thought they could fool the system. The system, as usual, just waited. Because in the end, it's not the law that wins, it's stupidity. It's more reliable. And don't forget to subscribe. But this is just the beginning. In the next episode, at 5 crimes that sound like fiction but really happened. Plans worthy of Hollywood. Execution, TikTok level.